Bro, our generation is going to be the first generation in history where we will live lesser lives than our parents' generation, and then our kids will be the same as us.
I think we need a massive rebrand. We need to make it very attractive for people to get into business, have a go, create jobs, create production, create new ideas. That's what some of the most successful societies we've ever known were built on, and I'm sick of this Ponzi scheme of buying property. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lat Chat. Today I have one of Latitude's co-founders
and
an original podcaster. John, thanks for coming on, mate.
Mate, I'm glad to be here. Can I say
yes
once, thank you for being here.
Oh,
because
thank you.
Two reasons I want to thank you. One, because I never thank you enough. Thank you. Secondly,
I appreciate that.
My business partner, our fellow client director, Toufic, was meant to be here today.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he's fallen ill. I'm really worried about him. He's got like sore throat, tonsillitis or something. And, he just pulled out last minute. So here we are again.
That's it. I love it.
Two old dogs, Jacob and John.
Can I say, ever since merging back in with Latitude Accountants, I've not met a bloke who gets more sick with baby sicknesses than Toufic Dad.
I say to him, if it's something your 4-year-old can get, don't tell your mates at work that's what you got. Don't turn up to work and say, I'm sick last night, I had a fever. Yeah. Why are you measuring your temperature? You're not a child.
Do you know what I mean?
I got tonsil, I got a chest infection. Brother, please, if it's not being hit in the chest by a truck, don't tell me about any problems with your 100%. Chest, because you're a grown man.
100%.
All right? You're 100 kilos. You've got hundreds of clients and staff. You're not allowed to have these sicknesses anymore. So please, bro, just have some respect and lie to me.
That's it.
Make up a strong man illness.
100%. I hear he is having a fee negotiation with the Tooth Fairy. Which I won't mention who said that, but
his tooth fell out. His teeth are coming in. So listen, we love Toufic, but we'll fill in today, bro. And we're gonna to have a bit of Toufic and John. The last time Toufic was on the poddy, bro,
he went viral,
so
bro. That's it.
It looks like he went viral and then he caught the virus. You know what I mean?
I love to hear it. All right. Yeah. Speaking of, let's do a bit of an agree and disagree here. So we've got a few questions that our lovely marketing coordinator has put together. So
shout out Nathan, the lobster.
That's it, the absolute lobster.
The big lobster.
That's it. Plenty of nicknames with a last name like Lob, let me tell you.
Yeah, bro, the Lob.
But that's
the Lobinator.
That's it, all right. There should be a flat 10% GST applied to all services, including food, health and medical services, no exemptions.
Hard agree on that one, bro. And let me tell you, I hate tax more than the next guy. You're disagreeing, I'm agreeing.
Great.
There should be a flat 10% GST applied to all services, including food, health and medical services without exemptions. Do you know why I say yes to this?
Tell me.
Because I'm not saying I agree with GST. I wish there was no tax, zero, period. But the fact that we have a tax, it should be applied fairly across all industries. Number one, it makes the burden of the tax even across all business owners. Now, what the government thought it was these services shouldn't have GST on them. But yes, it's a consumer tax consumers pay. But really, who's forking out the money on the bass every week? It's the business owner. And the business owner shouldn't have a GST just because they're a plumber and not have it because they're a physio. For it to be fair, it should be uniform. If everyone had 10% GST, one, it would be easy. Not GST free. Is it GST? I'm not sure. NDIS. Like, there's so much stress
100%.
about whether something's GST free or isn't. If it was just a flat rate, the simplicity would be there. It'd be fair on all industries. Okay. And then we'd be able to compare apples with apples. If you've got two industries, one's profitable, okay, and they're profitable by 100 grand because they're a physio, they take home 100 grand. Now, other one's profitable, cash perspective, 100 grand, they're going home with 90 grand.
100%.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is it's an important one. So health professionals, as we know, fresh food and meats and whatnot don't attract GST. And the most common people who get this wrong are, for example, cafe owners, because all of their expenses don't have GST in it, but all of their income has GST in it. So their GST bills are astronomical. The plumber might have subbies who are also registered for GST, and GST goes in and out. But the poor cafe owner whose has no GST credits, but he's paying a crap ton of GST, just trying to run a cafe with 10% profit margins, bro, you miss a baz. That's 10%. Your whole profit Gornski's.
Let's run the numbers on a cafe scenario.
Yeah, for sure.
You're a cafe owner in Marrickville.
Yeah.
Okay, you're doing $20,000 a week of revenue.
Yep.
You got to pay your rent on the space. It's
Yep.
going to be about $3,000.
Yep.
Left with 17. You're going to pay 30-40% cost of goods sold. You buy your your food and veg and drinks.
Yep.
Okay. There's going to be another $5-6 grand. Okay. You're down to about 10 grand. You're going to pay about 30-40% on the staff. Okay. You're going to spend another 5, 6, 7 grand on staff. You're left with 3.5 grand. Bro, when that tax bill comes in as a cafe owner, $2 grand GST,
Gone.
then guess what? You've maybe spent some of the PAYG.
Yeah.
You got to pay the PAYG on those wages, and cash flow's a mess. There's no cafe owner in Sydney. Almost no cafes in Sydney are making profits. Really, when they take into account the GST burden they have. This one rule, if you fix this, that will resolve the problem for most cafes.
Absolutely. So that's one perspective. So you've gone with the absolute hard agree. I am going to go disagree. The reason I'm going to go disagree is I accept the government's logic that essential services should not be subject to GST, because I think as an Australian citizen, you have the right to go and buy fresh food, water, government services, some government services not subject to GST. I think you have the right to do that. And I think the moment we start taxing essential items for people just to live, I think we've got a little bit backwards. So that's my. I'm open to amending what is an essential service and what isn't.
Yeah.
That I'm happy to.
The ATO
on,
came out, and this was in the news recently. There's potential issues with sunscreen. So
really?
So sunscreen is GST free because it's health industry.
Yep.
But what's happening now with cosmetic products is a lot of them have sunscreen in them, and there's a lot of ambiguity around.
Very true.
Is this a beauty product or is it sunscreen? And if it's actually a beauty product, they have to charge GST on it. But a lot of beauty companies are getting away with not charging GST when in fact they're selling beauty products. So if you're actually selling, a beauty product and you're not charging GST because there's sunscreen in there, ATO is going to be having a look at you. So watch out, beauty industry. But that brings me back to my agree point. If it was flat 10% across the board, we wouldn't need to spend tax lawyers, spend tens of thousands of dollars trying to look at the ambiguity of the tax legislation about should I or shouldn't I charge GST.
Yeah, that's fair. Very good. All right, awesome. Great conversation. Some great points in there. We'll go on to our next agree and disagree. The ATO goes easy on major corporations while aggressively pursuing small business owners and individual tax debts. John?
I'm going to say agree.
All right.
What about you?
On the fence about this one. I'm going to go agree, but not in the way you think. So I'm going to go agree and I'll explain.
I 100% think that smaller businesses, so the question is, ATO goes easy on major corporations while aggressively pursuing small businesses and individuals for tax debts. There's something about our legal system where the legal system in Australia is pay to play. It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong, unfortunately, in Australia. When you actually get taken to court, what matters? Who has deeper pockets?
100%.
Small business owners in Australia don't have deep pockets. Big businesses in Australia have deeper pockets. Is the legislation different? No. But what's different is that if you actually get in trouble from the ATO, you don't have the money or the backing to litigate, to fight for your rights as a small business owner in Australia. If they send you a late penalty, you're most likely going to pay it. They charge you interest, you're going to pay it. You owe more tax than what you think you do, you're going to end up going into liquidation. You're not going to go spend $500,000, $1 million pursuing a court case to try and justify that you should have paid $10,000 less in tax. Big end of town, corporate Australia, like big corporations, they've got the money and the backing to fight every single transaction. If they're sending money offshore, like because of their transfer pricing is a certain way, and they're like, you know what, we've got a company, Cayman Islands, and they did $1 million of services for our Australian company. We can send our $1 million of profit overseas, or 10 million or 100 million, and this is our justification. ATO has to find the money to fight them on that, and if they don't litigate and they don't pursue them and prove that they were wrong, that's Australian taxpayer dollars, then the big company gets away with it. The small guy doesn't have that luxury. The small guy goes into a tax agent, accounting firm. The accountant says, "Yep, that's income. Yep, you're paying tax on it in Australia. You don't have any foreign, ownership. You don't have any transfer pricing agreements. Your money is all here. You get taxed on every dollar." So, who gets screwed? Small business owners.
Yeah.
They get screwed on the tax. They get screwed on the finance. They get screwed in every which way, and then they have to spend their money, their taxpayer dollars, to fund the ATO, to fight the big corporations that are sending the money overseas. It's not fair.
Absolutely. Look, I agree with that. That's actually the reason I went for agree. I don't think the ATO, it's not for the lack of trying. I think the ATO tries to interpret the law and get it, more succinct, and tries to target corporates. But I just think who's got the deeper pockets and who's got the more political power, influence, all those sorts of things at play, who's spending the time investing in the lawyers to, move the profits around and making sure it's bigger end of town. The small business owner just doesn't have the resources. They don't have the resources to hardly run their business. They're moving on, trying to run their business. How the heck are they going to find the resources to fight the ATO and do all those sorts of things? So I completely agree with that. Awesome. All right. The government, we're going to have to start disagreeing on some of these, John.
Yeah.
The government deliberately delays tax bracket adjustments to force middle income earners into higher tax brackets over time. I 100% agree with that.
All right. I'm going to disagree on that for the sake of this argument.
Tell me.
I disagree. I think they do it because they're trying to extract the maximum amount of tax. Okay. So the question says they're trying to move people into higher tax brackets over time. Yes. But I think the real reason they do it, not just they're trying to do it for extra tax, but they're doing it for the clout they get when they come and say, "Hey, we're giving you a tax break." Every 3 years we have an election in this country. We've got an election this year. No doubt there'll be some speculation about tax leading up to the election, about what we're going to do about tax. We did it in previous cycles, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 tax cuts. They're not tax cuts. Our stage 1, 2, 3 tax cuts in this country are just increasing the tax brackets to match inflation. So in real terms, you still paying the exact amount of tax, if not more than you did in previous years.
100%.
So are they going to give us the tax breaks? They're going to give us the tax breaks. And they just want the social credit of saying they gave us the tax break.
100%.
They just want the clout. They just want to say, "Hey, I gave you a tax break." Because if they did the right thing and indexed the tax brackets, then they won't get the clout. Every year would be like, okay, the tax bracket has gone up $10,000 because of inflation, and no politician gets to stand up there in front of his mic in the press conference and look like a good bloke, which is what they want, so that you vote him in the next election.
100%. The whole idea of tax cuts is that I'm getting more of my own money back because you've increased the taxes over time, and you've lowered the tax. Thank you for giving me my own money back to me. Where it probably should have gone to start off with. This brings me on this isn't related to tax cuts, but it's similar. And you've mentioned, people running on different policies and things. Super, I have a love-hate relationship with super.
Okay.
Let me explain that, okay? I think, yes, super is great from a tax perspective. It's a 15% tax environment. You might be at a different tax environment personally. You can get the deduction for putting money into super, and it's a good tax investment strategy. I can't give you financial advice, but from a tax perspective, it works pretty well. Yes. Here's my love-hate relationship with super. Super is the government telling me this. This is how I perceive super. You are too dumb to manage your own money.
Yes.
So what we will force you to do is put aside 11.5% of your money into financial institutions and big end of town to manage your money for you. Yeah, you might be able to self-manage, but really we've run the numbers. It's not worth self-managing below a certain point. And so it's the government's way of telling you, you're too dumb to manage your money. We will manage it for you, and we'll elect the corporate elite to manage your money. Yeah. And then they go on which by the way, a lot of people accept and they love super because they think it's a great thing and underlying it is a good thing to put away money for your retirement. My problem is that I don't want to be forced to do that because I think I'm a big believer in choice. Now, here's my follow-up.
All right.
My follow-up is this.
I won't disagree on that, but first.
No,
you
no
follow
problem.
up. Go.
Yeah, my follow-up is this. The Liberal government is running on an idea that first home buyers will be allowed to take out their money from their super fund to buy property. So this is something Dutton's mentioned in the past. Now, my problem with it is this. I don't think in our current state of play, I don't think it's a good idea because we're just going to inflate the market again. Okay, that's just my current state of play. However, my historic state of play, which goes to my original argument, is that money is my money anyway. So I don't like when, okay, you forced me to put that money aside and now you've allowed me to take some of my own money back to do what I wanted to personally anyway. Yep. So because I have a problem with the premise, I have a problem with the legislation. So I can hear both sides of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I that's my love-hate relationship with super.
Right. But this is what you're missing in that scenario, right? Now, when you actually force the government to pay superannuation for an employee,
yes,
it's not that the employee is too dumb to know what to do with the money, right? It's the fact that the government has taken it upon itself to pay a pension when someone gets to beyond working age.
Yes.
So if the employer is not forced to pay the superannuation, which is a greater benefit for the employee, then they're going to end up paying the employee less money, because the employee right now is only interested in what they need to earn or what they can earn now. Okay? This is actually a tax on the company, where the company is contributing to the retirement of the employee. Okay? You are dressing it up in the sense that you're self-employed, and then the government's telling you have to lock up your money. And it just seems like that's true in the self-employed sense, but more often than not, the people who are getting paid super are not self-employed, they're employees. And we're forcing the companies to help fund the retirement of the employees that grow their companies.
But let me stop you there. This is where I disagree. I would happily give that 11.5% or whatever it is the SG rate is to the employee to determine their best use of that money.
That's wrong.
Why?
Because the employee's not interested in who pays for their retirement. The employee has two options. Their employer is going to fund their retirement, or the government's going to fund their retirement.
No,
we're shifting the responsibility of the retirement from the taxpayer to the employer, because the employer is getting the value out of the employee in the life cycle.
Ultimately,
in the working life cycle.
That's fine. But ultimately, who is responsible for the retirement? It's not the government, it is the person. This is where I have the fundamental disagreement in that.
But we have a safety net in this country, right?
Yeah.
We have a safety net in this country where if you can't, we have a safety net, and we should have a safety net where if you can't take care of yourself in this country, the government will step in to make sure your basic needs are met. Okay? If you don't want to live in a country like that, then leave this country. All right? I want to work in a country where the government cares about its people. It cares about its people enough to develop a safety net for the disabled, for elderly, and people who can't afford to live.
No problem with that.
So the question is, who's going to pay for that?
Yeah.
So if the taxpayer is going to pay for that, you're talking about everyday Australians having to pay more tax and more money to fund the retirement of other elderly Australians, when the people who should be paying for it are the big corporations that are employing them and gaining the utility out of that person's work. When someone turns up to work for a company, the employer makes a profit on that person. The cost of doing business, if the cost of doing business is making sure that person is taken care of when they're retired, then so be it. They should pay for that person and worry about them, not just so that until they're old enough so they can't work. That boss or that company should be worried about that person to the day they die. You don't just use them while they're profitable to you and you throw the person out on the street and throw them on the scrap heap of society because they're no longer employable or can no longer do their job. So when the employer is forced to pay the superannuation, we are giving back to everyday Australians some of the money they're working so hard to earn, and we're doing it in their retirement so they can live better lives, okay? And I'm all for it.
Okay, so we agree that there should be the employer has an obligation to its staff.
Yes.
We agree, just so you know, I agree that the employer should still pay the 11.5%. We agree on where it goes.
Yep.
You believe it goes to their super fund.
Yep.
I believe it should go to the employee. Because I believe
that's not the intention.
No, well, the intention is...
That's called wages. If they need more money for wages, they should be paid more wages.
Yes.
But we're talking about who should pay for the retirement, which is a different fund.
Correct.
Yeah.
But here's where we're disputing. So I believe the employer should take care of its employee.
Yes.
And that employee should set some of that money aside for retirement. And that, how much money is that setting aside? The 11.5%. Here's where we disagree. Here's where we disagree. In your worldview, the government
Yeah.
should step in and
Yep.
say, no, this 11.5% mandatory goes towards your super fund. I'm saying leave the choice to the employee. If the employee wants to put that 11.5% in their super fund, go for it. If the employee wants to use that 11.5% to feed their children, to pay their rent, to do whatever they want to do, we should also let them go for it. I don't believe the government should step in and force anyone to do anything.
If an employer has the choice to pay someone less, companies are psychopathic entities. Okay, their intention, purely stated in their constitution, is to make profit for their shareholders.
Agreed.
So if you can bring someone here, right now we're bringing a lot of Colombian, Nepalese immigrants to work. If you can bring them in, and I'm all for bringing in workers, but you don't have to pay them super, you will not pay them more in hand. You will pay them what they need, okay? And the only reason they're getting paid the extra money is because the government steps in and mandates the company to pay the extra money. The employees just are fighting to survive. They just want enough money to live, bro. These employees are only getting paid the wages they're getting paid because the government is forcing them. They're happy to just be in a place like a beautiful country like ours. The employees are not greedy. Okay, the by definition, the companies that employ them are greedy. By definition, the companies that employ them want to make profit. So if we do not intervene as a country to force those companies to help these people in retirement, then these people are not going to be able to help themselves because they're just struggling on the poverty line as it is. It's not that they don't have the ability. It's that the companies will not pay them enough for them to have a subsistence level of living and have enough for retirement. The company will come and say to them, there's two people here. You're willing to work for $100. This one wants $100 plus an extra 11% so they can put it away for their retirement. See you later, employee who wants the extra money. I'll take the cheaper employee. And unfortunately, we see that happening in so many economies where there isn't the safety net and the force of the government to actually take care of the employees.
I don't disagree with the safety net element in that, like pensions and whatnot, I have no problem with because you've contributed to the fabric of the society and you've contributed to the fabric of the country. You should have dignity in retirement. I have no problem with that. But I don't believe, and in my worldview, the market will dictate, obviously. And you mentioned the employer's greedy. The employer's greedy to the point of production in terms of if I'm going to get a more productive, happy employee, paying them another 11.5%, guess what I'm going to do? Pay them at 11.5%. Because yes, it will contribute to a better profit, but it only contributes to a better profit if my staff are well remunerated, taken care of. I'm not just going to, as a business owner, scalpel my employees and drive them into the ground because there's no incentive to do that. Because you won't retain your staff, you won't have people apply to work in your business. The unemployment's already low and we'll take care of that for me. So there won't even be two people to hire. There's only one person to hire and they want their 11.5%. And so I think the market will work that out.
But if you get, what you want is to get rid of super, you get rid of super, I promise you the actual tangible effect on society is not going to be people will put more money away for retirement. What will happen in society, and it's not because they're dumb, it's because some people, and they're fully at their right to do that, prefer their current needs over their future needs. And if you say to yourself, especially in a society like ours, where if I spend all the money I have now on a better lifestyle for my family right now, myself, and then the government will take care of me when I retire, or I'll live a worse life now, put money aside for the future so the government doesn't have to take care of me. Which one do you think they're going to do? They're going to do the one that is game theory. They're going to do the one that's best for them. It's more beneficial to use your money now and live a better life now and let the government take care of you than it is for you to put aside money so you're a self-funded retiree. So if we don't mandate it, we're going to go back to a system where we were before we introduced it, because super's not that old. It was in the 80s.
Yeah.
All right. Which was the actual fact, which is people spend all their money, okay, living a great life, and they're full within their rights to do that, mind you. It doesn't make them dumb or stupid. I refute your assertion that they're dumb or stupid for doing that. That's fine. They want to live their lives, and then the government will fund them in retirement. So anyway, it's I think we fleshed it out, and
Let's agree to
agree to agree with what I said. And move on.
I think we agree on more than we disagree in there, so I'm happy with that. All right. The government deliberately delays. That's the one we just. Okay. Yeah. GST is effectively a double tax where business pay tax on already taxed income, leading to hidden overtaxation. Agree or disagree? So GST is effectively double tax. You know what? I'm going to agree with it.
I'll disagree. You got to agree.
No worries.
Yeah.
All right. So here's why I agree. I had Toufic in my office the other day, and we were discussing the rate of tax. And I think your father's told you something similar. I'll let you touch on that story in a minute.
This is my dad's story.
Yeah, there you go. So Toufic walked in and he goes, bro, I'm in this rabbit hole of how much tax we actually pay. And I'm like, yeah, what do you mean? Talk to me about it. He goes, bro, you let's say you're a business owner, yeah? You get your money, you pay GST on it. Then you let's say you make a profit, you pay tax on your profit. Let's say you pay staff. You not only pay your staff, you pay tax on the wages of your staff, and then you obviously super as well. It's not a tax; it's for their retirement, which I back. But anyway, we're giving the money away for their super. Then you get the money. Now you've gotten the money, and you get in your car and you drive to work, and you pay tolls on the road. That's not a tax, but whatever. That's an essential need that you're paying for. You pay for the road. Then you get to work, you're buying goods and services as well, you're paying the 10%. You've got payroll tax when your business gets big enough, the government rewards you with taxing you because you've hired people. You buy a property, let's say you buy your family home, guess what you pay? Stamp duty. Then let's say you buy an investment property, what do you pay? Stamp duty and all the rest of it. Now you're paying tax on the additional money you've earned, that's fine. But there are so many taxes that it almost feels like it's just tax on tax on tax, and it's hard to ignore. Like it's just from every which way. You tell me your thoughts.
My dad explained it to me as a kid. Yeah. I said, Dad, how much tax do we pay in this country? My dad is a sole trader taxi driver, and the top marginal tax rate was 50 grand. He said to me, son, anything you earn over 50 grand in this country, you pay half in tax. That's the top marginal tax rate. Yeah. Then when I do my BAS, I pay 10% of my income on the BAS. That's now 60%. And then when we go to the shops and we buy things, I pay another 10% at the shops. So that's 70%. He goes, in Australia, you pay 70% of your income in tax.
100%.
I took that to the bank, bro, and I locked it up. Obviously, it doesn't work exactly like that, but yeah. But there is an element of feeling like the double tax. The reason I said disagree is because when you nuance everything out, it's not as simple as looking at it as a double tax. Sure. It's the end consumer is paying the GST. But it doesn't matter about nuancing it out. Yeah. What matters is how it feels, bro. 100%. And you know how it feels to Australians today? That they go to work all week, all they earn is enough to pay their rent and some of the groceries. Then they pay, everything is taxed. They don't have enough to buy a house. They don't have enough to go on a holiday. They don't have enough to do anything fun. Okay. You can't, bro, if you can't buy a house in Marylands and pay a mortgage and send your kids to school and go on a cheap $3,000 a year holiday, then what's the point of working?
Yeah, no, I get it.
And we ask people to keep turning up to this stupid scenario every day, and we don't care, bro. We do not care that we're selling out our country, the resources for nothing. We don't care that the big companies are growing. The small everyday person can't afford to buy a house, can't afford to live. Bro, our generation is going to be the first generation in history where we will live lesser lives than our parents' generation. And then our kids will be the same as us. How are you going to feel, bro, when you're looking at kids, your kids growing up, and they can't even live half as good as how I lived?
Do you know what drives this point? I've obviously every time you get into Uber or a taxi, you talk to at least I do. I talk to the driver, right? And there's two examples I can in my lifetime I have seen a drastic change. Number one is, what's the running joke when you're from Middle Eastern descent, okay, and you're getting to a certain age, and it's like, okay, let's say you're a young man in your 20s, no problem. As soon as you hit that late 20s period, your parents are starting to hit you up with the, what do you think of this girl from Lebanon or Egypt or wherever you're from? Yeah. What do you think? She may be your cousin, but that's okay. It's all good. We know their family. And those women used to be pretty keen to come to Australia and live a better life, because in Australia the assumption was you come here and live, men and women alike, you come here and you live a better life. But what I've seen is I've got some mates at that age, and they go, bro, this Trump card of I'm living in Australia
Means nothing.
Means nothing anymore.
Bro, the visa means nothing anymore. No one wants to come here, bro.
Because it's like I live a hard life in my native Middle Eastern country, but at least I'm living life. Because, I don't earn much money, but my family comes around to the dinner table. We have community together. We raise our kids together. We have a laugh. We have a joke. And even though the circumstances are dire, we're enjoying our life. They come here and all they see us do is work and pay tax and do all the things. And we don't even see each other. We don't see each other during the week. We're busy on the week. We're running around, kids in sport, this and that.
It's chaos, bro.
It's chaos.
And the sales pitch for Australia is diminishing.
Yeah.
I've had so many clients the last 3 years leave Australia, literally sell their assets, go overseas. I've seen them return to England or Europe, Middle East, Asia, Dubai, and every single one of them say the same thing. They're like, John, no matter what I do, no matter how hard I work, I can't get ahead. If I just take whatever money I've got, I sell my house, I've got 500 grand left or 700 or $1 million, and I move to this country, I can live like a king, I can enjoy my family, I can do all the things you said. Shame on the Australian government, shame on us, because we had a country and we had an opportunity where we were the best bloody country 100%. In the world, okay, where we had every resource under the sun. We had more iron in the ground that we knew what to do with. We've had more uranium than anyone, like most other countries, lithium. We've got all the natural resources.
100%.
We've got all the land, bro. There's more land in this country per head 100%. Than anywhere else in the world. We had a young population, free from war, free from famine, sickness, illness. And you know what we did with it? We said, let's just pump up the property market. Whoever's got property wins. Everyone else go F yourself.
100%.
And that was the model. So absolutely. If you got 20 properties, good luck to you. Everyone else, this country, they shut on you. All right. And honestly, if you don't actually find a way to make some money, scrape some to the side, get into the property market, into our Ponzi that we're growing together as it goes up and up and up, because we haven't built anything else, then you're going to be left behind as well. 100%. So if you're in Australia and you're not willing to play in that game and you can't see it for what it is, just know what you're signing up for. It's a hard fight, and I want you to fight. I want my clients to fight. But the reality is, if you don't, you're better off picking up, taking your stuff and going somewhere else, because this is the system we've made for ourselves, and it's going to take 50 to 100 years to reverse the effect of what we built. Speaking
of the reversing of effects, I hate being all negative and going through, the things
I feel negative today, bro. It is what it is. I'm upset about it.
We've been ranting, but I can't walk away without a solution. I'm going to propose a solution, and then I'll hand it over to you to propose one as well, and give yourself some time to cool down.
Yeah, no worries,
So my solution would be, I say this a million times a day, and I'm going to keep saying it. The American dream is to start a business. The Australian dream is to buy a home. We need a rebrand in this country. We need a working population who is productive, and with their production creates more production, as opposed to land banking the production that we've created. You hit the nail on the head. We have all the resources under the sun. We have great borders called the ocean. We have fantastic, vibrant people who have come to this country to have a go. And I think they need the opportunity to have a go. And I think that small business ownership does that. We always say that the small business owner is the hero of our community. Why? Because they're the ones who sacrifice their jobs to create jobs for others. And what happens when you create jobs for others? People feel that need of that sense of purpose. People have something to work towards, and people have their cups filled so that it can flow into their own communities and their own environment. So I think we need a massive rebrand. We need to make it very attractive for people to get into business, have a go, create jobs, create production, create new ideas. That's what some of the most successful societies we've ever known were built on. And I'm sick of this Ponzi scheme of buying property and getting all your money and just chucking it into property, because we know for some reason in Sydney that always goes up. You tell me your solution.
If you want to fix this country, you need to start taking care of the people who run this country. The people who run this country are everyday mums and dads working their asses off for jobs to keep a roof over the heads of their kids and putting food on the table. We do not have enough minimum wages in this country. I think the minimum wage is way too low. I think the super rate is way too low. I think for far too long, everyday Australians have been neglected. And if we're going to run this economy to any point where everyday people are actually better off, we have to start with the people that no one cares about, and that's the people at the bottom.
100%.
My dad, is working in a job till this day where 30 years ago he was working in the same sort of job where he's getting paid roughly the same he gets paid today as he would have got paid 30 years ago, where everything has gone up 500%. Do you know what I mean? When my dad was driving trucks in the 80s versus driving trucks now, there's no comparison.
But you know what didn't go up? The tax rates.
Yeah.
Sorry, do you know what didn't move? The tax brackets.
The tax brackets.
So he's getting paid the same, but paying
everyday
more
workers
tax.
that have blue collar jobs are so neglected. They don't actually get paid anywhere near as much as they need to live in this country. Why are we shipping hundreds of thousands of people in and then bringing them into a scenario where we don't take care of them?
Yeah.
There's so much richness and wealth in this country. You have to take care of the people at the bottom. They have to earn more so that they can improve the society. Do you know what happens in a society where you don't take care of the people at the bottom? It ends up becoming like a ghetto, a disaster.
100%.
Who wants to live in a place where people don't have enough food to eat or can't afford basic like healthcare, basic education?
Yeah.
Not me, bro. We all came from countries that were like that to start. Why are we turning Australia into a third world country?
100%. And we have, this is the thing, we have the resources to do it. We have the resources to do it. We're so privileged and endowed with resources. So it's an underachievement, honestly, if we can't fix this problem.
Gun to your head, we can up the minimum wage by 25%. Will you do it?
I have different thoughts on the minimum wage. Let me tell you what happens when you raise the minimum wage. Ultimately, the consumer pays more prices, and the same people you've given more money to have to pay more away. So do I think raising the minimum wage solves things? I think there are better ways to do it. So would I increase the minimum wage by 25%? I would rather encourage that minimum wage earner to invest in themselves, to invest in their skill. I would do it contingent on.
Yeah.
I don't want to force people on what to do, but contingent on them using that money to better themselves.
Yeah.
But that's hard. They
Brother,
have no. They can't even get by. It's hard, bro.
I mean, I've been an economic conservative, and I understand the line: pick yourself up by your bootstraps, blah blah blah. At the end of the day, the system is stacked against the little guy. If the little guy does not actually get real help right now, if these politicians do not decide to help everyday Australians right now, we're just going to be saying, oh, yeah, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, save money, be smart. Bro, I train thousands and thousands of small business owners and my clients every day on how to be smart. I teach them the skills. I tell them how to make profit. I tell them how to improve their businesses. But on the other side, policy is screwing them. I want to teach them how to be better, but the country needs to get behind them and say, hey, we want everyone to own a home in this country. Why can't my 5 brothers and sisters buy a house?
Yeah, 100%.
Why are they struggling? They've done everything right. Why?
Yeah.
Because the system is set up to enrich the rich.
Yeah.
And we just keep saying to the poor and people who don't have anything, you just got to be smart. You know what? Just buy my course.
Yeah.
This is how you're going to make money. Bro, help people make money, but set up the system in a way that it's fair for everyone so people are going to want to come here and your kids are not going to want to grow up and just move to another country, please.
Here, let me meet you halfway, John. Do you know what I would do? I wouldn't, maybe minimum wage. We have different opinions on that. But what I will do is this. Whatever minimum wage you want to increase, I'm happy to decrease the tax rate by that minimum wage. So I would decrease the tax rate so that they feel like they are getting more, which they are getting more money. It would make the same impact, but I think it's better.
I'm 100% with you that low income earners are paying way too much tax.
100% they are.
Let's just start there and then
all right,
we'll work
done.
on the rest.
Can we shake on that? Let's have a run. All right, good stuff. Now, we're going to go through a couple of questions who, again, our fantastic marketing coordinators put together.
Big lob.
Big lob. The cashless society agenda. Here we go. There's a theory. This is what Lob's hearing. This is what he's saying. That the push for a cashless economy is part of a government and corporate effort to track and tax every transaction while eliminating financial privacy. Feels like an agree or disagree. Yeah. But what are your thoughts around that?
My brother, I've been all things to all men, and I've had all opinions, and I've traversed every avenue. Yeah. And I've settled on this. If you're not doing anything wrong, it doesn't matter. Right. All right? Listen, at the end of the day, I hate inefficiency. Yep. Okay? I'm the pay pass king. Bro, I pay past more things. I pay past, when I go to the shop, I don't pay past one pay pass. I pay for one item and then I pay past it and then I do it 7 times because I like to hear the ting.
Yeah.
You know, like,
but sometimes you don't even need to hear the ting, brother. You're already out the door because it's still...
just pay and walk. No, but in all seriousness, the efficiency of cash is non-existent.
Yep.
The use case of cash is redundant. I love my economic conservative friends that are for privacy and for cash, and they say, oh, if the electrical grid goes out, there goes your money, blah, blah, blah. Guys, we've had electricity since like 1830, all right? If the electricity goes down for an hour, 2 hours, we're going to be all right if we can't pay pass. It's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, it's inefficient for the banks to have these branches. Armaguard can't even afford to move the money anymore. Armaguard, I'm telling you, Lynn Fox owns Armaguard, and they said, hey, they called Westpac, said, can you give us 20 mil because we need extra money to keep moving the money around? Because, bro, why are we moving bags of cash around to pay for things when we could just tap a card or tap your phone?
Yeah.
The idea that the government wants to control us, the government controls you already.
Yeah.
The currency is government currency. The currency is Australian government currency. They track your movements. They watch you. Like, you don't have any privacy. What's the antidote to that? Well, just don't let people into power that are going to abuse that breach of privacy, and don't do anything illegal. Like, keep your activities. We want to stamp out illegal activities and crime. Bro, anyone who's complaining about cashless society, like, let's be honest, who's benefiting from a cashless society? Anyone who's complaining about having a cashless society, who's benefiting from having cash in society? Bro, organised crime. Organised crime, businesses that aren't paying tax. Like, there's so much lost tax revenue, so much, illegal activities being laundered and cleaned through cash, that if you just wipe out cash tomorrow, you create a level playing field. Bro, I've got thousands of legit clients doing the right thing all the time, bro, and their businesses are competing with other blokes' businesses that are doing the wrong thing, and it does my head in.
Look, I 100%. This is always the way I think government is, in that they. I'm not saying they have bad intentions. Yeah. Sometimes they have great intentions, but the outcome is not one that is beneficial for society to some degree. So, for example, the cashless society, the government's intentions are, we want to claw down and we want to make sure we're not missing tax revenues and blah, 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 blah. But what does it do? It genuinely does infringe on someone's privacy and infringes on someone's ability to just go live their life without feeling constantly tracked, without being tracked, without their data being breached, without all these different negative things that come with it. Yeah. So I understand that having a cashless society may help increase tax revenues and help people comply, but I think ultimately, and this is a problem I have with the way we govern in Australia, in that if there's one bad egg, what's the saying? We throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what we're experts at doing that in this country. There's one bad thing that happens, and then we will over-legislate, overthrow on compliance, and just drown out everyone who's doing the right thing, because there are a couple of bad actors who aren't doing the right thing.
Listen, the Star Casino has share prices has plummeted to 11
because they've gone cashless.
11 cents or 10 cents. Why? Because after they got investigated, they realized there's so much money being laundered in there that now when you turn up to a casino, you have to show ID. And you have to use your card, your membership card, so they know how much money you're putting through the casino. Why? Because organised crime and foreign crime and everything was pumping so much money potentially through the casinos that the government had to stamp it out. The share price has plummeted, bro. Star City share price is so cheap. They're struggling. They're not making money.
Yeah.
That whole economy was being propped up by ill-gotten gains. Why should we stand for a society that is got pockets of black market activity when the vast majority of people are doing the right thing? It only hurts the everyday person. I can't think of one use of cash that you couldn't do with a digital means, okay? And I'm not against cryptocurrency or anything like that. And I'm not saying it has to be, but any digital means, cryptocurrency, FPOS, whatever, that I can't think of one that isn't really like you're trying to hide something that you're doing wrong.
For me, it's not even about doing people. It is obviously about people doing the wrong thing, but it's that this is what I said. It affects the bulk of the majority. I believe the majority of Australians are doing the right thing. We're very compliant as a nation.
Them negatively?
Because it ruins their privacy. Now they have their transactions monitored. They lose their freedom in terms of their freedom of privacy. You have data breach issues.
Yep.
All like even that is a big problem. How many headlines have you seen? Data breach this, data breach that. The more we start to monitor and have all this data, the more that people are going to start invading into. Bro, I could tell you someone's life. You're an accountant. If I see someone's bank statements, I could basically tell you what's happening in their life, where they're going, what they're doing. I don't like that as public information. That shouldn't be public information.
But
that's someone's life that they want to live.
Advocating for.
But it will inevitably happen.
Making public of people's banking
but
records.
It will. Okay, so you mentioned earlier.
You're creating a fallacy. There's a logical fallacy you're creating, and this is the fallacy. You're trying to justify the rule by the exception.
You're trying to justify the
exception
rule
to
by
the rule. The exception to the rule is, what if there's a data breach and I lose my privacy? Well, let's work on reducing data breaches. Do you know what I mean? So the rule is, if the rule is we should not have cash because it's more efficient and less crime with like cashless, and then you try to say, but sometimes there'll be data breaches. Well, you're trying to say the exceptions should supersede the rule. So what I'd say is, if the problem is data breaches, well, let's work now on data breaches.
But that goes to the flip side.
That doesn't mean that having cashless is not better.
No worries. That goes to the problem of, if the majority of Australians are compliant and doing the right thing, why then do we need to move to a cashless society for the minority to whip the minority into shape? Because it benefits the
majority, bro. Because the majority are good people. All our clients, all the people we know are doing the right thing.
Agreed.
We tell them every day, listen, don't muck around with cash. So when there's one fringe percent, if we can stamp out cash, we stamp out the 1% and we make it fair for the 99%.
Let's go one step further. Let me go one step further. And we're veering away from accounting, but let's see how we go. All right. Do we then go to... Okay, you know how in China the cameras that are on the streets and whatever, just monitoring behavior and all that sort of thing. Yeah. Is that something that's tolerable in Australia?
It's perfect. It's lovely. Let me tell you why. Andrew Bustamante used to work for CIA. He was working in Abu Dhabi or Dubai. Abu Dhabi, Dubai, it's a full nanny state. Cameras are everywhere. If you're an Emirati, you have more rights than every foreigner in the world. Okay. Sure. If it was not a surveillance, he got himself into a car accident where he was rear-ended by an Emirati person, all right, in Abu Dhabi. The whole thing was recorded and everything is linked up. It's a complete, surveillance state. They got footage of the accident. There was dash cam footage both sides. Yeah. Everything was down to the T. So then when he, as a foreigner, American and an Emirati, presented themselves to police, okay, he was able, as a lesser person in that country, to get justice. Why? Because it was all on camera and there was no doubt that it was not his fault and he was rear-ended. Okay? If you went back 30 years in that country before cameras and surveillance, the local will win, the Emirati will win over the foreigner by principle. I'm sorry, bro, you're not from this country. I don't care if he fell out of the sky and crushed your car. It's your fault. Do you know what I mean? The surveillance only benefits the innocent and it only detracts from the criminals. And I think that so many fair-minded people are scared of surveillance, and the only ones that they fear it so much, and they're the ones that are innocent, and it's there to protect them. Yeah, all right, of course. Sometimes you don't want everything you've done in private to be made public, and it doesn't mean just because it's private, it's meant to be public. But let's just work on provisions that actually protect your privacy where privacy should be maintained in your own home, your body, your rights of what you eat and medication and things. But wherever we can improve things with technology, I think we owe it to ourselves to try and bring that in, and not scaremonger about privacy, not scaremonger about nanny state and that, because, bro, at the end of the day, we govern ourselves and it's a pendulum. If we go too far, we'll go back the other way. Just like we're doing in America now with Trump coming in and saying we went too far on gender issues, blah, blah, blah. No more, no more going too far on the LGBT issue of like pronouns. Let's just, you know what I mean? It's like, it happens in every society. As soon as the pendulum goes too far one way, it swings back the other way.
Yeah, look, my thoughts are always around, if you've read 1984 and Animal Farm, you're very much very skeptical at least of these issues. So
don't worry, just make me president, and I promise I'll protect your privacy.
That's the best. All right. The last and final topic: manufactured cost of living crisis conspiracy. So again, this seems to be big lobs, big conspiracies. He's got all the big topics. The skyrocketing cost of living in Australia isn't just bad luck or economic mismanagement. It's a deliberate strategy by corporations and the government to keep families financially trapped. Thoughts?
Yeah, mate.
John?
Well, look, I've obviously made it very clear that I think the government needs to do more to alleviate the cost of living burden. One thing I wanted to talk about that has a link to cost of living is inflation. So I've gone on a deep dive recently.
Talk to me about printing or not printing, or
not
what
printing or printing. So every time I jump on the internet, I see people going, "Bro, there's so much inflation." Or they say, "Bro," I say, "Bro." I see people on the internet saying, "There's so much inflation, and it's all because the government is printing so much money. They're printing money out of thin air. They're printing money out of thin air. It's money printing, money printing." Now, that made me think, how does the financial system even work? And in Australia, we've got the Reserve Bank in Australia. Do they print money out of thin air? Technically, that's what the internet, conspiracists would want you to think. It's not necessarily, there's nuance to it in that they're not printing money out of thin air. What they're doing is they're bringing liquidity into the financial markets. So what does the RBA do? They do not just go generate $1 billion, okay, and put it into the economy that didn't exist. They take something first. So what happens is they go to banks and other financial institutions. They have to give something in exchange for that money, which is a hard asset. Think about it the way you think about water. Water has three forms, okay? Water can be ice, solid. Water can be liquid. And water can be gas, okay? H2O. Vapor. So imagine the RBA's job is to decide how much of the H2O is vapor, water, and solid ice. Okay? In this analogy, all tangible assets like gold and commodities and property, that's solid, that's ice. Okay? All intangible assets, okay, goodwill, bonds, things like that, they're like vapor. Okay? And the cash in the economy is the water. It lubricates the economy. All the RBA does is they come and they meet and they say, all right, for monetary policy, how much of the vapor and how much of the ice should we turn into water? Okay? And they have a mechanism where they can turn bonds or gold or other things which they collect into promissory notes, which is the cash they issue into the economy. Have they created anything? No. They have reconstituted the asset makeup between bonds, stocks, gold, whatever assets they do. They take in and then they issue out promissory notes. If you return those notes, if we take all the cash in the economy, all the water, and return it to the RBA tomorrow, they will reissue gas or ice. We'd still end up with the net same amount of things in the economy, okay? But what happens is they're trying to lubricate the economy by putting cash in and taking out assets just to the point to keep inflation between 2 and 3%. The real issue is how the government, and this is fiscal policy, how the government spends their money. What the government can do, aside from the RBA, is run a budget deficit. And this is something they did a lot during COVID, where the government actually issued bonds, sold bonds to banks, okay, took money and spent more money than what the government has to stimulate the economy, okay? And that sometimes if you do that too much, or you do the monetization, loan monetization thing the RBA does too much, you can end up with too much inflation. But that's why Sandra Bullock and the RBA have the job every 6 weeks of going in and saying, have we done this too much? Okay, now we'll ease off or we'll bring the rates down. Or do we need to push more? So I don't like the scaremongering about the role of Federal Reserve or RBA and that, and I say it's all fake. It's just all money printing. Bro, if you understood what money printing was and what the intention of these institutions were, you wouldn't call it money printing. Now, you can come and argue with me about whether you call it money printing or not, whatever, but the real issue is how is the government spending their money? How are they taxing the economy? Okay, and this is what I have a problem with. They're taxing the wrong people and they're spending the money on the wrong things.
Agreed.
Okay, and that is what is causing this cost of living crisis. Okay, cost of living crisis purely means you're hurting poor people more than rich people. In Australia, we have a cost of living crisis where policy is hurting poor people more than it's hurting rich people, and that's not fair.
Agreed.
We need to set up the society in a way where poor people are not hurt as much as rich people, and we need to do it with fiscal policy. The government needs to look at the tax system and overhaul it, because we're disadvantaging everyday people, and every single day that goes on, more and more people are falling out of the middle class and the blue collar class to the poverty line. And we're going to end up with a country with 25, 30 million Australians where like 500,000 people are doing well and own all the properties, and everyone else owns nothing.
Completely agreed. And one of the that's a great take on it, and you've done a fantastic job of clarifying the way the monetary system works. But the other issue at play here is that I have a firm belief in that the financial advice sector has become so overwhelmed with red tape and policy that it is impossible for the average Australian who needs the financial education to get access to the financial education which would help them make decisions that benefit them financially. And you could speak to any financial advisor. There's a minimum entry fee that not everyone can afford. The conspiracy I have on that is that we're not teaching it in school. We're not encouraging people to go and get that financial education at a reasonable price. And part of the thing is, if you don't have consumers, who are the consumers, the lower and middle class, because they don't have the means of actually even putting money away, the consumers, you're going to lose them. Because if you're teaching a consumer how to become more financially astute, how to do things differently to maybe get ahead, you've lost the person you're actually selling the goods and services to. And we're very much we are an export economy, but our small business is mainly a service economy where we service each other. So I think financial education has been left out of the system for way too long. And do I think that's by design? I think it could be. I can see the scenario where the middle class and lower middle class are just allowed to be on this rabbit hole of accessing more credit than is probably good, spending money, doing all these things. And then the cost of living crisis comes in and compounds on that and forces them into now debt and forces them into positions where you can't make good financial decisions if your only financial decision is, do I pay the rent or feed my kid?
It's not fair. It's not right. Yeah. And I'm done. I'm actually done with we need financial education. I'm done with it.
Right.
Why am I done with we need financial education? Because we've tried that line and it doesn't work. You know what we actually need the government to pay for? Financial services. We need the government to say, you know what? We pay for doctors. We pay for NDIS, okay? We pay for hospitals, or, if you don't have food, we buy you food. Guess what?
100%.
Who can't afford financial services? Poor Australians. It's about time the government starts paying for accountants and financial planners and finance professionals to provide these services to everyday Australians, because it's these lack of these services that are resulting in the lack of financial skills and the money to have a good cost of living.
Absolutely.
And to survive. Why shouldn't accounting and financial services be if you can't afford a lawyer, you'll get legal aid. Do you know what I mean? If you can't afford a doctor, you'll get Medicare. All right? If you can't afford food, Centrelink will give you money to go buy food. Bro, financial know-how, literacy, financial services are just as important as those other services. Yet we do not want to pay professionals like me and you to help the poor people who can't afford our services. Man, we try to make them as cheap as possible.
100%.
But bro, at the end of the day, our segment of the market, it's like what we do for people is not a necessity, but the top end of town, the rich, they're happy to pay their accountants and their financial professionals tens of millions of dollars because they know that's what really makes the difference. The government doesn't want you to have an accountant.
100%. And if we're going to say we care about health, let's take care of all kinds of health. There's physical health, but there's also financial health. And more often than not, how many times do you see this, John, where the financial health will be the cause of a lot of other issues and will be the cause of the mental health issues, will be the cause of the marital issues, will be the cause of the physical issues that someone will suffer simply because the financial health
Yes.
was not taken care of. And if we're going to take health in this country seriously, financial health
Brother,
has to be a part of that
I've said it
conversation.
before, I said it again. My dad was let down by the financial services system, financial knowledge, expertise in this country when he lost his business and he lost his home. That caused more pain and suffering than missing a few meals or not being able to go to the doctor to get some antibiotics every now and then, like would have caused. The pain that caused me and my family was purely not being able to afford the right type of financial services. We collect all the money for the government to run this country. If that is not a service governments should start putting money into,
Absolutely.
then what should they put money into?
Yeah.
You make Australians go pay accountants top dollar to pay taxes. So we make Australians pay more taxes than what they should, and they have to pay an accountant for the privilege. How about the government starts chipping in some of that money and saying, you know what, accountants are an essential service. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think we should start the accountants' rights party and actually start getting some government funding to do this job we do, because at the end of the day, I would do it for everyone for free.
Yeah, 100%.
And I love accounting so much, and I think it's so valuable. I want to do it for everyone for free, and it burns me that we can't do it for free because there's no policy makers, there's no government, there's no one who looks at our industry and says this is a real good service that you actually need, everyone needs.
Absolutely. And instead, they crush the service provider and they crush the financial services
and they bring in
provider
more
into
rules for
oblivion.
us,
That's
and they make
exactly
it harder for us.
That's exactly right.
So we have to charge more.
Correct.
And it's not fair,
So
bro.
it's backwards. Love that.
Let's go to Canberra right now.
That's it. All right. So in this conversation, we've discussed a wide range of topics, and I'm happy to say I think that was good. I think that was. I think we've learned something from each other's views.
Yeah,
and I think
sure.
I think we met in the middle there on some topics, and we covered some ground. So, mate, you've made me a little bit. I used to be probably a little bit more conservative than I was coming out of this conversation. So, it's given me some things to think about. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your time here, and I appreciate all the work you do here at Latitude Accountants. Don, thanks for having us. Thanks for coming on, and to the audience, thanks for listening, and we can't wait to see you all in the next episode.